Fans, we are live on thehannibaltv.com with a special fan question and answer period with the one, the only, the man who is perhaps best known for his seminal work in World Championship Wrestling in the 90s, which we'll get into with your questions. A man who has done many other endeavors in this business and others. The one, the only, Sonny Onoo. Sonny, thank you for coming on tonight.
Hey, you don't look like Hannibal, but I guess you'll do, right?
I'm his most notable stand-in.
All right.
What before we get into the fan questions that have come in, I know we spoke last in December of last year, and you were talking about a number of projects that you were involved in at the time. How are things going for you on the business front?
You know what? It's pretty interesting. You know, Muda's last event was January the 22nd, and I was involved in booking Sting over there. It was Darby Allin, was AEW, and we had to jump through a bunch of hoops because I also helped out on Nakamura-san from WWE, wanted to wrestle Muda before he retired. So I had to make sure that, you know, we weren't going to offend anybody or, you know, ruffle anybody's feather with all those different companies, you know. So, yeah, it took 7 months to put that deal together, actually.
Wow. And that was certainly a huge success. How were you able to traverse all of those company lines to get to make that happen? Because I know the fan interest on the internet was huge.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is that in our business, especially in Japan, you know, they still protect the business, right? So that's the big thing, and language barrier, a business barrier in a sense, because Japanese will never tell you. Let's say you bring them a proposal, they're never going to tell you no. That's not going to happen. They will not. It's never here. It's cut and dry, right? It's like, how much is that? Okay, I'm interested. Let's negotiate the money, right? Over there, it's not like that. First of all, it's not always money issue, although money does play, obviously, because it's business. But it has a lot to do with who do you do in a business with. So the relationship, if one word I can describe is you got to have a relationship. Excuse me, my French bulldog is attacking something on one of my house. You guys leave.
We are a definitely a dog-friendly channel on the Hannibal TV, given the multiple appearances by Hannibal's Piper Poodle. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I rescue these guys, so I help with the rescue. So yeah, so you know, but as I was telling you, the relationship is the most important thing, right? And navigating. So the best I can describe it to you is that now you can't do this on a Google Translate, because that's just, it translates what they're saying, you know. And if I can best describe myself as I'm an interpreter, you know what I mean? I'm gonna tell them what you're really saying, you know. So like I always say, I'm an interpreter and not a translator. You know, anybody can translate, you know. So that's it. And like I said, you can't just, you know, you can't just call them up and say, hey, I want to book, you know, I want to book Sting for my show in Japan. You know, you'll never get past the front door. And that's what happened, was that Noah went through the front door and got a couple of no's. And Noah called me, because I know Takeda-san's the president of Noah, called me and says, hey, you're friend with Steve, right? Borden? I said, yeah. He lives here in Texas with me. And I said, I'm currently in Iowa, but, you know, I have a home in Texas. So I said, you know, the Muda is asking for Sting on his last match. So, you know, can you let him know that if that's within the realm of possibility? When I called Steve, he didn't know anything about it. So like I said, it never got past the front door of AEW. So, so those are the things that I, and because of that, and I negotiated a deal for Sting, and one of the thing was one of the most interesting thing, relationship, trust. Sting said to me, because of the exchange rate, the Japanese company Noah wanted to pay him beforehand, like a month before. And I called Sting and I said, hey, they want to pay you, He said, no, I don't want to get paid till after the first year for tax reasons or whatever, I don't know. And I said, well, I think it's a good idea to get paid. When somebody want to pay you, take the money, right? I mean, that's how we think. And Sting said something very nice. You got to read between the lines. He said, no, I'm not worried about getting paid because this is SONNY ONOO deal. So I don't have to worry about that. Which was kind of nice, but kind of put, I'm not the guy who was paying. So that kind of put a little pressure on me. But yeah, so, having those relationships with the talent, having a relationship with the company and trust, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, well, a tremendous achievement. Absolutely. Our first fan question comes from, a man by the name of Ben Benjamin, who's asking, which I think we covered in our December interview, but do you still talk to Eric Bischoff?
Yeah. Eric is not a phone guy. He doesn't really, he doesn't call, and when he does call me, and like I was just telling you, I try to read between, because he's not a phone guy. He'll, he's a person guy. We get together, and I've been to a fan fest event or a celebrity golf event in Cody, Wyoming, where he lives, and I was there with Dan Severn, and a lot of guys who's a lot of sports, Chicago Bears, Atlanta. I mean, a lot of basketball players and all those real sports stars. They were there with us, and I got to spend some time with Eric. I spent about a week with him, but yeah, I stay in touch with him. We exchange sushi pictures because he's really into sushi. So whenever he's at the sushi joint, he'll send me a picture and says, "Look what I'm having." So I give it to him when I go to Japan, and says, "Yeah, but you have it in America. I have it here."
You get over on that one.
Yeah.
Another fan question is, you're credited to be the innovator of the selfie, and this fan wants to know what made you do that initially, way back when.
Well, within that character was the character was developed by help of people like Jimmy Hart, Bobby Heenan, and those were the guys who helped me, helped me a subtlety and being a manager. And we were playing. Japanese guys are known, certainly back in 60s and 70s and 80s, they always had camera. Japanese tourists always had a camera. So I came up with one of those big camera one time, and of course we don't have people taking our pictures, so I just turned the camera on, started snapping it. Then that evolved into using a Fuji camera, the little green little box. Remember those 35 millimeter thing that we used to have?
Yep.
And I started using that, started taking selfies. We didn't call it selfie because we didn't have these cell phones back then, But yeah, but I'm sure the guy who first invented the camera is the guy who did the first selfie. But I think I'm the innovator in the sense that I'm the first one who did it on television, 2-3 times a week. So yeah, so I get credited for that one.
And notwithstanding, the innovative aspect of it, man, did that sure get heat. Did you, when you did that, I mean, it seemed to translate on television. In the arena, did you notice how that really got under people's skin?
Yeah. What's really funny, I want to tell you something, fan was, I mean, he identified with me, right? So that was good. We used the camera for different reasons. I put flash on people's faces and stuff, and distracted, as a part of the show, and so it was, we knew we had something. It was good. It identified certainly me with the character. So that was really good. And matter of fact, the Fujifilm offered to sponsor
Wow.
one of the pay-per-views, but unfortunately, Turner had a deal with with the Kodak or something, so we couldn't. We turned down some hefty money.
Well, certainly memorable nonetheless. A fan wanted to ask about your experience outside the ring managing one of your very talented charges, that and an innovator in his own right, that being the Ultimo Dragon.
Yeah, yeah. Ultimo and I helped him. I helped him. See, Mr. Inoki, and I believe it was in '94 or '95. He had a big event in Los Angeles, actually, and he was the chairman of New Japan at the time, Antonio Inoki. So, and we happened to have a meeting. Eric and I met with Antonio Inoki and Nagashima-san, his right hand man, about working together. This is before WCW and New Japan started working relationship, and at that event was Chris Jericho, Ultimo Dragon, who worked for Tenru Group, and also the Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit. So way we developed it, and this is just before Nitro. So and Eric certainly had his mind that he wanted to be bring something different to Nitro, and he where WWE was bigger than life, huge big characters. So he took advantage of these high flying cruiserweights, and thus we ended up hiring Malenko, and Benoit and Eddie to WCW. And because of our working relationship, we made sure that they can still work in Japan as well as they can work in Japan. They got a good bump in a pay because now they're basically full time with WCW, and so yeah, so it was a win-win-win deal for New Japan, WCW, and a talent.
Mm-hmm. One fan on social media asked me to ask you about your experience in the somewhat infamous Sturgis pay-per-view, where in '96 you managed Bull Nakano against Medusa, and that whole atmosphere in terms of the biker subculture and whatnot. And we've heard conflicting stories from some of the talent as to some really enjoyed it, some found it less than interesting. But what was your experience in terms of that atmosphere in Sturgis and that particular match?
Well, first of all, we're natural heels because we're dealing with it, and we did it. It was bike versus bike match. Winner of the match got to destroy the other bike. So, and if you remember, the finish was suplex, belly to back suplex. So when it went 1, 2, 3, I think my girl Bull Nakano won. And because both of their backs is on the mat, so I go and take that sledgehammer against Medusa's Harley Davidson, the pink Harley Davidson. And you know what? If I would have hit that thing with a sledgehammer, I'm pretty sure there would have been a bullet flying. Because they weren't wrestling fans.
No.
They were there. They were bikers, and there might have been a few wrestling fans, but basically 99% of the people were bikers, and they would rev their engines, started cheering, and it was pretty crazy and a little bit scary, for us because it's not. Security can't really help us when the bullets start flying. So, but it was crazy, and because it was way our finish was, and certainly biker Japanese, and I rode in a Honda, So right, it's a natural heat. There was no. I probably only had our only Honda there in Sturgis,
Probably,
and he was a cross rocket.
Yeah. When Eric dropped that idea or came up with that whole idea of the hog wild, road wild concept, and the fact that it would be basically a free show with all those individuals coming into Sturgis. What were your thoughts in terms of that concept, that the pay-per-view would recruit a non-gate, or I've always wondered how that creative process went, being
Well,
a
you look
worker.
at, you think of Eric Bischoff. People don't give him enough credit. I don't think. I mean, he's my buddy, he's my friend for before wrestling, and the reason why he got into wrestling is because of me. Because if you look it up about a Ninja Star Wars, but that's another story in itself. But they don't give him enough credit because he really he wanted to broaden the audience. Right. So what better way to do a broaden audience is at least you have pay-per-view venue coming, money coming from the wrestling fan, but you want to introduce wrestling to another subculture of because he was a biker. So, to these groups. And listen, man, WCW did NASCAR. We were involved. We had a sponsor. I think Iron Horse was one of the sponsors for one of those events. So, I mean, you really got to give the man a credit where credit is due. He went outside the envelope to look for things and do things, and that that's why he has all those here of 83 weeks of beating WWE.
Mm-hmm. Definitely innovative. A fan is asking, where did you get your suits? They look very expensive.
Well, I got those suits, the yellow suits, the purple suits, and all that. Listen. When you're a manager, one of the things that Jimmy Hart, you see Jimmy Hart, he gets all his stuff all sprayed, the painted, the custom made, and you need to be unique, right? So the bright, double breasted, the suit, and those are Italian suits that I went out and got those from Chicago area.
And were they custom, or did they?
I mean, I was custom fitted, but yeah, they were Italian suits that unique in a sense. I don't think you'll ever see any of those suits around. You know, you won't be hanging in J.C. Penney's. I can guarantee you.
Again, definitely memorable. Another fan on social media asked about, you mentioned Eric's come up a couple of times and how you befriended him in the combat sports world in the 70s. What were your thoughts? And you mentioned the Ninja Star Wars, and that was his entree with Vern.
Right.
What were your thoughts when he became an on-air personality in the AWA?
Well, because Minneapolis is only 2 hours from where I live in Iowa, Mason City, Iowa. So, they will bring, this was their territory. They would come here twice a year. And I helped Eric was one or two of his promotion when he promoted the show here in town, generally at the fairground or at the high school gymnasium. But, and I thought it was cool. I didn't know anything about wrestling, except being a fan. I knew the talent, the Jesse Venturas and Masa Saito and, that kind of thing. So when I got to work with them and to me, it's just like having a cake, right? And I get to eat it with these guys. It's great.
JD wants to know, do you have any hard body Harrison stories?
I really don't, but he was a very talented guy. As a wrestler, I thought he was really talented. Unfortunately, what he, I think he's still in jail. But he was really talented. People don't really remember him, but if you look him up, you'll find that he won a lot of those tough man contests.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of prelude to all the stuff that it's on. Even UFC. Prelude to that. But yeah, he won those tough man contests. I think he won a couple of them. He's a legit. I think he spent time in service before got in wrestling, but he's a legit tough dude, and other than that, I don't, it's unfortunate what happened to him.
Absolutely. Mike D wants to know, do you have any thoughts on Bobby Duncombe Jr. passing away 23 years ago?
Yeah, I believe it or not, I am one of the fortunate ones that has a collection. I've been told by JSA that I have largest collection of taps card, signed taps card. Matter of fact, here I'm going to move the camera and show it to you, so you can see these are all signed cards I have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
there's Hennings, there's
Eddie.
Eddie,
Yeah.
there's Elizabeth, there's Bobby right here.
Wow.
Yeah, so and I have a collection of those. I'll show you. There they are. I got a
Wow.
4,000 of those signed cards.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So yeah, so I have, Eric will tell you that I collect things and um it's gotten to be a quite the um gift that I can give to myself. Actually, these things. I just sold one of the '80s cards for a little short of $2,000, and Macho Man cards goes for a little over $1,000. So is Elizabeth's card. So it's great. I mean, I sell them here and there, and whenever I need some beer money.
Well, we'll get at the end of our discussion here with your contact information for fans that might be interested in that. This is an interesting question from an individual by the name of the Salesman, who's asking, how would you rank best to worst when it comes to wrestling? We're speaking in terms of continents: America, Mexico, Japan, and the UK. That's a unique question.
Yeah, I've been everywhere. I worked at all those places. I think the concept is so different because United States, it's television based, right? So you got, and it's a skill set as well. You got to know where the cameras are. You got to be able to do things on cue because you're on time. Where and you still have to get your stuff in. Within that time. I mean, it's a, I've been in WCW where they tell us, okay, Ultimo, you got 15 minutes. Great. We're getting a ring, and next, we do the intro. We get in a ring, and next thing I know, I hear a referee going, 2 minutes into it, and goes, "We got to go home." What? Because Hulk and those guys went long on their interviews. You know what I mean? So those are the things. That's a skill set. Then you got Japanese wrestling or Japanese television. Even if you look at the people who can follow, New Japan World and Wrestle Universe by Pro Wrestling Noah, the television company just films everything just like it's a sporting event, like a baseball or a football. So they're not smart to how long are they going to go, any of that stuff. So you get to see much longer matches because it's an actual match that's being filmed. You know what I mean? So, those American that goes over there need to be in good shape because you might have to go 30 minutes. You know what I mean? And at the same time, they're not doing a high flying thing for, all the time. There'll be a spot, but it's literally a spot. There's a lot of wrestling, a lot of hold, so it's different. And of course, Mexico, it's, high flying, acrobatic. And so guys like Ultimo Dragon who can do it all, those are the guys who gets over. I mean, Kenny Omega, it's respect for him because, he took all that and after being told no here in the United States, he went to Japan and made himself a name in Japan and went to New Japan. He went to DDT first, made his name and went to New Japan, which is the top of the heap over there. There's New Japan and Noah. And then, of course, you got to come here and be the big star to AEW. But anyway, I know we're running low on time, so.
Yeah, we'll just that was a very good synopsis there. One fan also on social media asked a question to ask you that I have an interest in, and that was what was your experience managing Ernest the Cat Miller and your thoughts on his performance in the movie The Wrestler and the Wrestler movie itself. Kind of controversial in the business.
Yeah, the movie itself is very truthful, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys like the character, the wrestler. And I mean, there isn't a lot of Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. There is people that shoots up to the top, and what do you do after that? There's a lot of history in professional wrestling. So I think he captures some of that. Ernest got to play the Ayatollah character, and believe it or not, I talked to Ernest probably 3 times today. We're thinking about going overseas together and to a promotion, and because of our martial arts background, so we talk to each other at least 3 times a week, and
That's great.
about the business, usually about martial arts and other things we're doing, and I'll leave you, fan, with this, and you're gonna have me back for a longer period next time, but I have a project in the works that I've been approached by a big company, and we're going to be bringing Pro Wrestling Noah to the United States, and it's going to be pretty surprising who's going to be hosting and the platform they'll be on. And I can't divulge that now till we signed a deal, but it's going to be a pretty big deal, and it'll be a Japanese wrestling with few American talent sprinkled in, but you'll be on a large platform.
Well, Sonny, we will most definitely have you back within the summer period for an extensive deep dive interview. Just one last question, which may be difficult to fit in with the 3.5 minutes that we have left, but who was your favorite person to manage?
Well, man, listen, I've been fortunate enough to manage all the Japanese talent, right? I mean, who's who? Kanemoto, Masa Saito, Jushin Thunder Liger, Ultimo Dragon. Then of course, Akira Hokuto and Bo Nakano. I mean, I can go on and on, right? But Ernest Miller been real good fun for me. And being able to guide Ultimo Dragon through WCW was, we're probably best known together. A lot of stuff we have got done. So when I go back, I'm still a real good friend with Yuji Nagata that I manage here. So, they're all great, but probably Ultimo and Ernest, because we stay in touch. I talked to both those guys today.
Well, Sonny, I really appreciate your time. And again, fans, you're going to want to stay tuned to the Hannibal TV. Click that subscribe button if you haven't till now, because we're going to have Sonny back for a deep dive into his extensive career and see what's happening with that teaser that he dropped on us. Sonny, where can the fans find you on social media?
Facebook is the easiest way for me, for you guys to follow me. It's on the Sonny Onoo. And you'll see my selfie character on there. So come and find me, and DM me, and you can ask me the questions.
Appreciate it again, sir. We will stay in touch and have you back again. Appreciate your time. Right. Thank you very much.
Peace.
Take care.
Bye.
Fans, that's it for a special fan Q&A with the legendary WCW figure Sonny Onoo. Just wanted to mention before we go tonight that we are days away from the Smith Falls Showdown in Smith Falls, Ontario. You can see it's a stacked card. We will have Davey Boy Smith Jr., Harry Smith, the British Bulldog, on the card, Jeremy Prophet, Nunzio, the ECW legend, Magnum McLaren of the Big Money Players, and so much more. If you haven't already, go to ticketweb.ca and get your tickets now, because I'm telling you, they're going fast, and this is going to be an event. I know a lot of promoters say this on occasion, but this event is going to be very memorable and need I say, or should I say, almost legendary when all is said and done. You're going to have bell-to-bell action, and you won't be disappointed. So once again, go to ticketweb.ca or the Smith Falls Memorial Center box office and we will see you there. Don't you dare miss it, folks.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal